hand takes yesterday, and
Negative Ghost Rider.
there was no get off my lawn. Everybody was just
The Chad was in a good mood yesterday.
a peachy mood. Just
no grumpiness on a Tuesday for Chad yesterday. Was going to golf after the show for the second day in a row, so he felt real good.
usually like the grumpy old man stuff in me comes out when I fly, which more on that coming up in a little bit.
Always does.
But the idea that you need all-star uniforms ever, why can't we get on a consistent plan here with regard to all-star games? We've done this in both Major League Baseball and NBA. I understand, look, in the old school days of the Pro Bowl, which doesn't even exist anymore, but in the old school days of the Pro Bowl, you had to kind of create a uniform for both teams because it's football, right? There's trenches. You can't be tackling the wrong guy. You've also got helmets. So with helmets, it throws everything off. But in the NBA and in Major League Baseball, we've gone back and forth about, do we have all-star uniforms or do we just wear the regular team uniforms, but one team wears the home whites, which aren't even the home whites anymore, and one team wears the road darks? And we flip-flopped on that so many times. Like, why can't we just come up with a plan? And I think that's what throws people off with the Major League Baseball stuff. One, also, Nike does a lot of great stuff. Air Jordans, thumbs up. Air Maxes, I am a fan. Nike does a lot of good stuff. As an Oregon fan, I can tell you, not everything's a home run. Every once in a while, when you take big swings in the name of innovation and pushing the envelope, sometimes you swing and miss. Major League Baseball All-Star Games uniforms, a little bit of a swing and miss. Didn't quite understand the paper bag looking ones for the American League. But also, like, it was in Texas. Didn't real like I remember the NBA All-Star Game one year was in Phoenix, and the uniforms were representative of Phoenix. There was cacti on it. There was you looked at the uniforms, you're like, that Phoenix, southwest part of this country, I get it. I didn't get what that was yesterday. So, some uniform talk with Major League Baseball All-Star Game, but also it's All-Star Weekend. It's the summer. We need some other stuff to talk about, so that came in. We're going to have an interesting discussion about this Brandon Aiyuk deal because I do think there is a bigger theme, and I have teased it before. But is there a changing of the mentality of NFL players and taking a look at what's going on with NBA players? And is this Brandon Aiyuk trade request, which, again, my first thought was and this is not sour grapes because of a particular touchdown Brandon Aiyuk scored in 2019. This is not sour grapes. Brendan, you're looking at me going like, is this sour grapes? It's not.
It was a great throw and catch, though.
It really was.
Turns out both those guys in the NFL, that tracks, doesn't it?
One of them's got a Heisman Trophy now.
Yeah, it turns out that tracks. So, no shame there.
At the time, I don't know if I've been more mad at a game, but that one is close.
It's understandable.
That one is.
But anyway, please continue,
especially
Mr. Aiyuk.
knowing now what that meant. That, like, I believe it was like 3rd and 18.
It was so long.
It was 3rd and 18. Fourth quarter. That touchdown in 2019 that Brandon Aiyuk scored from Jaden Daniels, and what that ultimately meant, because Oregon would go on to win the Pac-12 that year, would go on to win the Rose Bowl, and if they get that one stop, Justin Herbert plays in the college football playoff.
He does.
And I wonder if his legacy is a little bit different down in Eugene. Well, his legacy is already solidified, but like Marcus Mariota's legacy is what it is because of playing for the national championship, winning the Heisman Trophy. That being said, yes, Brandon Aiyuk discussions prop up some interesting memories for me as an Oregon fan. This is not sour grapes. My thought is, who are you, Brandon Aiyuk? Good player, solid receiver, would like to have him on the Steelers, but Is Brandon Aiyuk at a level in the NFL where he can actually request a trade and anyone would actually listen to him? So we're going to dive into that coming up in approximately, 13 minutes. And I have some stories from vacation, which I think everybody loves, right? Isn't that what everybody loves? When you guys were all grinding it out, going to work, and I was on a beach, I was on a boat, I was at a very nice Airbnb with a pool in Kauai, which I learned it's not Kauai, it's Kauai. Everybody loves when you come back and have vacation stories, right? Well, I have one that I think this listening audience would very much enjoy. So we've got that coming up later on in the program, plus a whole bunch of other fun stuff. That being said, Brendan, I made it 8 minutes into this show. When I left, you were on Pins and Needles. Oh boy, they're showing the play on ESPN. There it is, Brendan. They're showing the play on ESPN. Why are they showing his Arizona State highlights? The man's been in the league
hurts,
for
man.
40
That's gotta hurt. He's been in the NFL for like 5 years.
He's been in the NFL for 5 years. Why are they showing his Arizona State highlights? ESPN can't find more than just. Anyways.
Has there ever been a player who got drafted, though, just off one performance? Because you know Arizona State was not very good that year.
They were not.
He balls out against Oregon, who ever won national championship game. Or like
They were.
Oregon needed to win to be in that discussion. And he goes, oh, yeah, I'm just going to dominate against the Ducks. Like that. He improved his stock off of one game. It was insane. But anyway, yes.
He's a solid receiver, but I don't know what he's doing requesting a trade. But
he thinks he's Justin Jefferson, man. Clearly.
And that's, yeah. He might think it, but that doesn't change anything. But what is interesting is when I left last week, we had Rip City Mornings with Justin and Brendan was still in high anticipation of a game that was 11 years in the making. College Football 25. Now, it comes out on Friday unless you paid for the early release, which you dropped the extra $30 because you figured, you know what? $30 you did the deluxe with the Madden thing?
Yes, it was actually more like 40. 40 more.
But you get Madden, though, with it.
I do, yeah.
But that being said, over 11 years, right? And I was like, and I've been saying, because I'm not a video game guy, but I hear everybody's like, oh, this is going to be the best. This is going to be the best. And very rarely when there's this much anticipation does anything live up to the hype. How's a video game? Does it live up to the hype?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Is it pretty awesome?
I'm to the point, Justin, where maybe if you keep hearing how awesome it is, maybe I'll pack up my Xbox and we'll have to connect it to your outdoor TV and let you take on video games in your where you are now, because it is so realistic, so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
The only complaint that I have, they did not update Reser Stadium. Old side of Reser.
Really?
Big miss.
That is a big miss.
It looks really.
But I guess they've been developing it.
Yeah.
And they just had the other side of Reser.
I heard there could be a patch, but, being with my Beavs, starting my dynasty, looking at that, I'm like, that ain't it. But, it's been cool. And to that point, Justin, I was actually surprised. So Monday, going into the week, I was told that it would be available Monday night at midnight. So I made plans for Monday after this show. Went out on the boat, the pontoon boat, with my sister and brother-in-law.
Yeah.
And did all that on Monday. So when I get in here and start talking to Chad on Monday morning, he goes, oh, did you see they're releasing it at 1 o'clock? I go, no. So then I went back home. My brother had also pre-ordered, and we literally had a moment where we're like, we're really going to pass on going on the boat to sit at home and play video games? And we both made a decision. We're like, you know what? We waited this long. We waited a little longer.
Yeah.
Went out, enjoyed nature.
Good job.
And I was proud of myself.
Very good. It's a much.
Yes.
I approve of that decision.
So that was fun.
It's like it is as a guy whom I know, because I spend every day with you, who in the winter you want to rip people's eyeballs out because you're like, I can't handle this winter anymore, to then sit inside on what I would assume was a beautiful day.
It was. It's hard,
I would approve of that decision. But that being said, it lives up.
Yeah, I think so.
So far for the first whatever.
Yeah. So to that point, just to finish up. So I got back Monday night, and when you're in the sun for 5-6 hours, I had it in my head. I'm like, oh, I'll go home and get the whole thing rolling before I go to bed. I was dead dog tired, and only barely got to just open the game, play a quick one. But yesterday, Justin, got the dynasty going.
Yeah.
Beavers are 8-0. We're rolling. So,
what level are you playing on?
So it's like if it goes
So there's freshman,
varsity, All-American, Heisman. So I'm on All-American right
You're an
now.
All-American.
Yeah. So
you got the Beavs sitting at 8-0.
Yeah, didn't want to go tippity top, but
Can I ask a question? And this is not meant to be mean-spirited. How do they do the schedule with the Beavers in the dynasty mode?
Yeah, so
Because obviously this schedule is there, but in the dynasty mode, you got to continue to play, and it'd be easy for the rest of college football because they all have conferences.
Yeah.
How do they do the scheduling for the dynasty mode?
Like before the season started, the only game that was quote locked in was Washington State. You could have moved all the other games, and then after this year, because this is funny, I know you appreciate this. They don't have bowl affiliations tied into the Pac-2 in the game. So right now, if you don't make the playoff, Oregon State or Washington State,
Season's over.
Yeah. So I'm like, after this season,
which is kind of realistic because that's going to eventually happen with the rest of college football.
100%.
If you don't make the playoff, you're like, well, why are we going to the Meineke Car Care Bowl? Get out and start recruiting. I have some other thoughts on College Football 25, even though I've never played it, but I have some more thoughts and I have more questions. But Brendan Aiyuk has requested a trade, and I'm fascinated by this because is the transfer portal leaking its way into the NFL? We'll talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so I feel like this time in sports, whether you are a college football fan like I am, whether you are an NBA fan like many of you are out there, or any other sport that really does not have a heart of the matter here in the summer months, like say golf or baseball, but probably mostly for football and basketball fans, summer can be an uneasy time. Summer can be an uneasy time because you kind of hold your breath. Even in the NFL, right? In the NFL, summer, no incidents. We don't need arrests. We don't need off-the-field problems. College football, well, I think we all know about the summertime in college football, right? Whether it is transfer portal stuff, whether it is conference realignment, whether, all of that stuff. NBA, kind of same thing, is player movement going. By the way, what's going on with Jaylen Brown? Is he going? In pro wrestling they call it a heel turn. I think in the comic book world, right? Is he going full villain? Is Jaylen Brown, after winning multiple postseason MVPs, now just like, I shall be the bad guy, which I like. I saw he got caught on camera saying like, I don't think Bronny's a pro, which again he's not. Bronny's not a pro. But
did you see the Kawhi Leonard stuff too? It's getting real
and
fishy.
He believes that because he's not signed with Nike that he's not on the team.
Something fishy happened there. And then Jaylen Brown's like, why didn't I get replaced? Derek White. So
yeah,
interesting, nevertheless.
So anyways, I saw that going on, but it can be an uneasy time. But the NFL, the only thing as an NFL fan usually in the summer that you have to worry about is, other than off the field stuff, is injuries, right? The worst thing that could happen if you were an NFL fan is to pull up your phone and just, oh boy, such and such suffered an injury or whatever, and boom, can change your entire season. Because the way the NFL is structured and the way the NFL has been set up, the idea of ever there being a player empowerment movement as we see in the NBA, I have said for years and years and years, there's no way it's going to happen. Now, maybe, potentially, I might be wrong. More on that coming up in a bit. But we've seen this every summer. Player A is in the midst of a contract negotiation. Team A is like, we can't afford to pay you. We need you to player then holds out from team activities. And it's, again, tale as old as time, song as old as rhyme, with what's going on with the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk and the fact that he's not received a new deal. He believes he has earned a new deal. It's one of the problems of having a team that is as good as the 49ers is that everybody then wants to get paid. And in the NFL, not everybody gets to eat the steak and the lobster at the head of the table. Somebody's got to eat some deli sandwiches and kind of has to be good with it. So he hasn't received a new deal. Idle hands are the devil's playground, as they say, and idle time in the NFL, players can get in their feels, and other people and influences and everything else, when you get outside of the facility, can kind of creep itself in. So Brandon Aiyuk has now, I guess, officially requested a trade, but Brendan, what does that even mean, right?
The NFL, it's like
it's not like you filled out a form and it's like, all right, he's requested a trade. We got to get the trade request form in. But you know what I mean? It's not like there is actually anything official about it, but it's now being reported. Aiyuk, he wants out. He wants out of San Francisco.
I mean, he's coming off a career year, right? I mean, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. He wants to be paid. He's obviously not Justin Jefferson. I'll say that. But at the same token, Justin across from me and I have watched him for the last couple of years. He's one of my favorite players. He's really fun to watch. He's a great receiver, and yeah, he probably deserved to be paid more than the whatever $6 million or whatever it was he's making this year. Now that being said, Justin, very much like a great progressive commercial. Read the room in sync. And Brandon Aiyuk has to realize that in this particular instance, like you told me, this is commonplace in the NBA. This doesn't happen in the NFL. Now,
no, because you can request a trade all you want. Because if I'm not mistaken, not last year, but the year before, didn't Deebo Samuel request a trade? Then I'm fairly certain my memory, if my memory serves, that it wasn't last summer, but the summer before, Deebo Samuel was doing kind of the same thing right now. And then ultimately, the 49ers were like, yeah.
April of 22. Yep.
Boom.
2
years ago, Deebo Samuel requested a trade, and the 49ers were like, that's cute. No, you play for us.
That's how I feel.
Because I think there's a couple of different factors at play here. One is the NFL, led by Roger Goodell, is an owner's league. It's an owner's league. They run the league. They run the show. The NBA is more of a partnership between the players and the governors. The fact that they're called governors tells you how much influence the players have, right? It's more of a partnership. And if certain players in the NBA aren't feeling it, well, we have seen James Harden, Ben Simmons, and certain other players just like, yeah, I don't want to be here. You need to get me out of here. And for whatever reason, the NBA has kind of acquiesced to the players because I think there is a fear. First off, there's 5 guys on the court at any one particular time in the NBA. So that's why your value is higher, right? You think it's a percentage point. You are X% of said team, and if your productivity goes down, replacing that is incredibly difficult to do. No offense to Brandon Aiyuk, who, like you said, he's coming off of a career year. But you are ultimately replaceable in San Francisco. Because you said, well, he thinks he's Justin Jefferson. Let me throw out some names here. Is he better than Devontae Adams? Who, by the way, is now in the middle of trade rumors. Better than Devontae Adams? I don't think so.
No.
No.
It's closer than you think, though.
Is he better than Tyreek Hill?
No.
No. Is he better than Jamar Chase?
No.
No. I mean, that we just said he's not better than Justin Jefferson. Anybody else I'm missing here? Stephon Diggs. Is he better than Stephon Diggs?
You're getting closer.
Is he better than DeAndre Hopkins?
Getting closer still. But it's a subjective.
Yeah.
Those first names you listed, absolutely not. So is he in the elite tier of receivers? No, I think he's just very, very good. Justin, he's not the best receiver on his team.
No, that's right. The thing.
We love Debo.
Is he better than George Kittle? I know George Kittle's a tight end, but that's still a receiver because George Kittle's in the receiver documentary. He's not better than George Kittle. He's the third. So you think about this with the 49ers. This is how stupid good the 49ers are and how when you pay Brock Purdy $800,000, you just get to have all the good players. But best offensive player for the San Francisco 49ers is Christian McCaffrey. He's best offensive player. You could make an argument that the second best is either Debo or it's George Kittle, but it's one or the other. You're the 4th best option offensively. And I might even say, crazy as it sounds, because we discount offensive line so much. Trent Williams is a more valuable player to the San Francisco 49ers than
especially how much they run the ball.
So now we're on the offensive side. You're now down to number 5. Now, I guess this probably begs the question, like, well, of course, well, why else would he want out? He feels like he can be a number 1 option somewhere. I think Washington is where he wants to be because, again, Arizona State, that stupid 2019 game. But when I first saw, Brandon Aiyuk, unhappy about his contract, requested trade. And I'm like, who are you? You are, at best, and by the way, haven't even mentioned Brock Purdy, who I believe is going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL if he's not already a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. And I'm not a 49er fan. This is not some fandom. I don't even like the 49ers. I just think Brock Purdy's that good. So where is this coming from? This is the bigger story that I want to dive into because we have seen in the NBA, right? Where did player empowerment come from? I would like to sit here and just blame everything on LeBron James. That's not the case here. Where in the NBA did player empowerment come from? It had to start somewhere. It had to be planted and rooted. It has to come from somewhere. And I think I know exactly where. if you know anything about youth basketball, if you know anything about the AAU basketball culture, these superstar NBA players came from some big-time college, but before that, they came from an AAU program, right? These basketball travel teams that go all over the place. And you know what guys used to do? Especially if you were a 5-star, can't miss, you're going to go to college for 4 months before you go right to the NBA draft. You know what those guys used to do? They picked and chose and jumped all over the place to whatever AAU team they wanted to play on and whatever buddy they wanted to play with that week. Because there's no rules. It's the Wild Wild West in youth basketball. Hey, this select team's going to Vegas. Like, I want to play with that team. Hop, skip, and a jump. That's why these guys play more AAU basketball than they play high school basketball, because there's still regulations. You can't just transfer high schools all over. Well, you can change AAU team. I firmly believe the player empowerment movement in the NBA came from the AAU culture. Not saying it's bad, just saying it's different. I believe that's where it came from. Are we going to see a change in the mentality of the NFL? In the fact that coming from college football, because that 3 years in college, that ain't changing anytime soon. And that has been challenged. That has been taken all the way to the Supreme Court. That's not changing anytime soon. The NFL likes the 3-year rule. I like the 3-year rule. And the fact that now players can get paid in college, that has even less of a case, right? It was like, well, if you're good enough, you should be able to go get paid. Well, now you can't in college. But what do we know about college football right now? Oh, Justin, you turned a Brandon Aiyuk thing into a college football segment? You're darn right I did. I've been gone for 3 days. You guys come from college. These guys come from a place where you arguably have more power and more leverage in college than you do in the NFL. You might think, well, that's kind of crazy. What are you talking about? You get to the NFL, right? You get a contract. You make a whole lot more money. You should probably have no. You have more leverage in college if you are a top-level football. But why? Because in the NFL, you're bound by your contract. In college football, you can play anywhere you want. You are not bound by anything.
And you can transfer what? 2, 3, 4 times now?
They've tried to rein in the transferring. They've tried to put regulations on it and getting smacked down by the courts every single time, because antitrust laws say you cannot, if they are now professionals and are able to turn a profit, you cannot restrict them from turning a profit. And all a player has to do is make the argument that I will make more money here, I shall transfer, right? Just like anybody else. Brendan, you used to work at Sonic. You then worked at Five Guys. I'm assuming that was probably made more money. Or better
opportunity. Minimum wage having gone up in a few years, so yeah.
But it's like, unless you have an actual contract, like, right, and a union that is collectively bargained and everything else, unless you have all of that, your employer cannot stop you from moving on to better employment opportunities. Happens all the time in the business world. Well, that's what's going on in college football. But the difference is, instead of grown adult business people, it's kids who are making decisions based, I believe, more often on emotion, as opposed to their best financial and football interest. So now we see players in college football that if they're not feeling it and they have any leverage, and by the way, there is another coach on another team in another conference, maybe in the same conference, who knows, who is more than willing to say, yep, don't worry, come play for us. And there is another booster with another checkbook ready to write said check, going, yeah, come play for us. So I know that Brandon Aiyuk did not play in an NIL era of college football, but when you see the mentality of a guy who is the 5th best offensive player on his team going, I'm not feeling the love or the money, I would like to go play with my college buddy in Washington. First off, okay, I get it. NFL careers are short. You get one ride on this roller coaster. I do understand that. And there is a mentality because us as fans, we can't possibly fathom. Why would you ever want to leave the 49ers to go play for the Washington Commanders or whatever their new name's going to be? Because they're going to change the name. Why would you want to go play for the They're terrible. They stink.
Can we just go back to the football team? I like the Washington football team more than I like the Commanders, Justin. Like, either that or...
You want a hot take on this?
What should they be?
All new uniforms and all new names are just weird. They're just weird.
Have you not come around to the Pelicans now? I hated that when it came out.
The Pelicans are a great example.
I've come around.
They are on... At the time, this is the weirdest name ever.
It was so weird.
But you know what? Is it any more weird than Ducks and Beavers?
No, it's not. But yeah, so I've said forever my big thing
new
is...
names of teams are always weird. The Cleveland Guardians, that's weird. But if they were the Cleveland Guardians of 1897,
I know, right?
We'd be like, the Red Sox, that's a weird name. But it's old.
Like back then, did someone just have a pair of Red Sox that they wore around? And
I'm sure there's a whole story there.
Yes, there has to be. But
I took a tour of Fenway. We didn't get to the
Sox
name of the
part
team.
Of it. But yeah, no, you're totally right, Justin. The only thing with that I've said forever is you just need to have a team name that's appropriate for where you are. So like I said forever, is there a lot of jazz music in Utah? I don't think so, but we know the reason, yada, yada. So, but Commanders just makes no sense.
All new names just seem weird, and all new uniforms just seem kind of
okay. I'll tell you one that never hit: the Charlotte Bobcats. That never did, and that's why
it's because it was new. We were used to the Charlotte Hornets, and it was new. Yeah, the Bobcats never hit.
And didn't you say they named it after the owner?
I believe their owner, his name was Robert, and obviously Bob, short for Robert, and they were the Bobcats. That's interesting.
If you could work your name into that, if you were that rich, would you do it? I mean. Think about it.
No.
It's kind of a cool rich person flex, a little bit.
Cleveland Browns, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Cleveland Browns named after Paul Brown.
That's very true.
Which is funny because then Paul Brown left the organization, went and started the Bengals, and basically
they're Paul Brown Stadium, so go figure.
Well, and then they had same colors, they were wearing basically the same uniforms, and they're like, well, you can't do that. It's like, well, they're the Bengals, with stripes on the helmet. I wonder that with all of the transferring that's going on in college football, are we going to see an influx of that attitude and that mentality heading into the NFL? When you think about the Brandon Aiyuk deal, right? Why would you want to leave, or why would you even think you can leave? Because Brandon Aiyuk is probably looking behind him going like, well, Jaden Daniels, who played quarterback with me at Arizona State, guess what he got to do? He got to leave. He got to go to LSU. He got to play for Brian Kelly, and he got to win a Heisman Trophy. And now he's top 3 pick in the NFL, and I want to go play for him. I don't think this is going to be the last of this. I'm interested to see how the 49ers, because there are going to be some teams that acquiesce and go, all right, fine. Let's see if we can get some value out of this. And then there are going to be some teams, and I think a lot of teams in the NFL, that are just like, no, that's cute. You're going to play. Good luck. You want to sit out? Great. Because let me tell you, Brandon Aiyuk, who is good, I don't know if him sitting, could you imagine? He's like, oh, no, I'm going to sit out. Great. We're still going to be really good. And you're not going to get paid now. So it's an interesting thought on that. Speaking of interesting thoughts, interesting quote from Kirby Smart about the Oregon Ducks from SEC Media Days. We'll talk about that and more as we go on campus. Our countdown to college football 2024 continues next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, 45, count them, 45 days till college football kicks off 2024. 1 week. 1 week from tomorrow, we will be broadcasting the show live from Indianapolis, Indiana, as I will be at Big Ten Media Days. Oregon, Washington will be represented that day. I believe Maryland is going to be there. Michigan is going to be there that day. Indiana. So, but hopefully we'll be able to provide you some entertainment and also get a ton of great interviews of the changing landscape that is college football. As boy, I've covered a lot of media days. Never thought I'd be at a Big Ten media day, but very excited about that. So 1 week from tomorrow, we will be doing Rip City Mornings live from Big Ten Media Day in Indianapolis, Indiana. SEC Media Days currently going on right now. And Kirby Smart from Georgia had some interesting things to say about Dan Lanning in Oregon. But 45 days till college football kicks off. Let's go on campus. Here we go. First and foremost, let me just say, as an Oregon fan, I'm very uncomfortable with the amount of people in the college football world who are putting Oregon on a level that is the same as Georgia, that is the same as Alabama, that is the same as Michigan and Ohio State in the Big Ten. I am uncomfortable with this. As an Oregon fan, I am much more comfortable screaming into a microphone, nobody respects us, nobody's giving us a chance, nobody, the East Coast, that's not the case this summer. This summer, Dylan Gabriel's the leading Heisman candidate right now, odds-wise. Oregon is in everybody's top four, if not their top two, and I don't know of any metric, whether it is the FPI that I was introduced to last week, or any other power index that does not have the Oregon Ducks sitting in the college football playoff come December. And one of the reasons why that is because no one in the college football world has benefited more from NIL and the transfer portal than the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning has been masterful in the way he has continued to upgrade the roster while also retaining talent, because that's the key in college football. Talent retention on top of, because transfer portal, that's a two-way street, my friends. Well, to be able to close down one and still bring in guys, it is a talent. Lanning has been able to pull it off. Will it translate to the field? We'll find out. But it's not going unnoticed, not just by media members, but other coaches are starting to chime in. Kirby Smart, which was obviously Dan Lanning's previous spot there at the University of Georgia. And Kirby Smart has the Georgia Bulldogs again with Oregon, with Ohio State, with a handful of other teams, is one of the best teams right now in the country and national championship contenders. He had something to say about Dan Lanning and Oregon and NIL. Here's Kirby Smart talking about Oregon at SEC Media Days.
This year we took Nike, who I've had the great pleasure of meeting Phil Knight and his wonderful wife Penny, and I wish I could get some of that NIL money that he's sharing with Dan Lanning, but that's another note.
You lost me there in the beginning. You said my NIL what?
The joke about Nike and Dan Lanning.
Oh, yeah, about Dan Lanning having the treasure chest to open up and get whatever he wants, yeah.
Oh, you mean the joke about Dan Lanning gets whatever he wants. Now, again, Oregon fans were a little sensitive about this because, well, just Oregon fans are just sensitive in general. I'll just say that right now. It's an uncomfortable position, like we've talked about, and the narrative, which is again a word I don't always like using, but sometimes it fits. The narrative is that, well, the reason that Oregon's roster is its way it is because, well, Phil Knight is just sitting there. It is Beaverton Mansion and just cashing checks, or maybe he's at a Sun River house, or maybe he's, who knows, maybe he's in a helicopter somewhere, but he's just sitting there cashing checks. Now, the numbers say that, yes, Oregon is massively, massively benefiting from NIL because these players are coming in and they instantly become Nike-endorsed athletes. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I know that every player at Oregon's roster is getting some sort of NIL money, and I believe it is coming through Division Street, which is essentially a subsidiary of Nike from Phil Knight, or really a subsidiary of Phil Knight, whom is Nike. But I don't believe that Oregon is spending more than Georgia. I don't believe that Oregon is spending more than Texas. I don't believe Oregon is spending more than Texas A&M. I believe Oregon might be a little bit more organized. But that being said, the perception is that they are. Here's my question. Is that good or bad for Oregon?
Oh, I think it's fantastic.
You think it's good for Oregon?
I
tend to agree with you because I think if I'm a kid out there and I'm like questioning where I'm at, first thought is, well, I go to Oregon, get a big bag from Phil Knight.
Well, and here's the deal with
now, I don't know if that's always the case, but if it's the perception, you're going to get into a lot of living rooms that you were probably never going to get into before.
And here's my thing. Let's just say, as I look at Oregon from a pure recruiting standpoint, now that everything's above board with being able to pay players, the opportunities, the Big Ten Conference, the glitz, the glam, Justin, and not to mention star football players aren't really usually dialed into elite academics either. The only thing that Oregon cannot sell on the recruiting trail, as opposed to some of these other schools, is weather. Literally, that's the only thing Oregon can't sell is hey, push comes to shove, $1 million.
Hot take? I don't think weather sells on the recruiting trail.
I still think people will go to SC and LA for the.
But where are they at though? USC has been in terms of their recruiting. There's been down. UCLA has never been a recruiting power. Arizona State's nope. I don't know if anybody's got better weather in the.
I think
in the winter times and the football times. I don't know if weather sells as much. It's always been a thing. You're right. It's in recruiting. It's hey, you go where the palm trees and the beaches and the pretty girls are. But I don't know if it sells anymore now that you can add a big bag of cash with it.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think it's we're nitpicking here, right? But it's
You're right.
that's a very it's a very underrated aspect of going to the SEC, where it's not only football country, but we always joke, you're not cold in November and December, right?
No,
but you always joke.
I don't know if I would. Now I've talked to players. I remember when I had a conversation. This is how old I am. At Oregon Media Day with LaMichael James, right?
Oh,
Michael James,
that old dinosaur.
Yeah.
Killer Burger owner, dude.
But this conversation I had was 14 years ago.
You didn't need to give me a year, John.
14 years ago.
Lived it in our head.
But I remember talking to LaMichael James, and LaMichael James comes from Texarkana, Texas, right?
Totally.
Another place that is incredibly warm. And I'm like, what was two-a-days like? He's like, you don't even know. You don't even know about the heat and the humidity.
It's true.
And all of a sudden I can get up to Oregon in the summer, and it's like, well, this is... I'm not sticky, so...
or maybe program tradition. Oregon only has...
You're right. There is not a long stay. But again, now that you introduce big bags of cash,
you can,
I don't know how much that sells either.
So other than I said, maybe if you're a guy that's I want to be at the beach, want to chase pretty girls. Hey, lots of pretty girls in Oregon too. Just throwing that out there. And other than they only have one Heisman winner compared to maybe if someone's I need to go to a place where I can win a Heisman. Yeah. But
I think the other thing that Oregon has, other than now you got the perception that they are the NIL king. I don't think they are, but that's the perception right now. Kirby Smart just said so.
Yeah,
he said treasure chest. Right? We all know what that means. The other part of it is can I get to the league? Right? That was Nick Saban's secret sauce. I put people in the league. You want to come to the league? You come play for me. And all of a sudden, you look at NFL rosters, there's a whole lot more Oregon Ducks filling up NFL rosters. By the way, and a good chunk of that are Mario Cristobal guys that Oregon fans want to poo-poo, but
Oregon's well represented.
Putting guys in the NFL, now combining that with Dan Lanning's talents as a recruiter, combining that with, yes, the NIL budget that seems to be unlimited. But I got a lot of talent.
The only thing that's left for Oregon
translated to the field
is to prove they can win the big game.
The big game.
Beat Ohio State.
Under Dan Lanning, 100%. All right. Coming up next, funny story from my travels. We got to make or miss. We got all sorts of fun stuff next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Portland Trailblazers took down the Washington Wizards 82-80 in Summer League play. First overall pick from the Blazers, Donovan Clingan posts 8 points, 13 boards, and 5 blocks. The American League defeated the National League 5-3 in the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, but the talk was more about the ugly uniforms than the game itself. And after not receiving a new contract, 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk has now taken to social media to request a trade, rumors swirling that he would like to be reunited with Jaden Daniels in Washington. Coming up in hour number 3, Tyson Alger, friend of the program, is going to be joining us. But hour number 2 of Rip City Mornings, it starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. All right, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Coming up in 20 minutes, we have got Make or Miss. Coming up in about 45 minutes, stuff we saw on the internet. Tyson Alger is going to join us in hour number 3. Now, I always hesitate because I don't know. I like to think I have the pulse of this listening audience, but sometimes I just don't know. So when I go off and go on my travels and my adventures and then come back here to the friendly confines of Rip City Mornings, I don't know if you guys want to hear about vacation stories or not, because you guys were grinding it out. You guys were working yesterday. By the way, it's much hotter here than where I was yesterday. But I feel like this is a relatable story and something that probably every husband has probably been through. Now, before I tell this story, I would like everyone to know, most often I do not ask my wife for permission to talk about her on the show. She knows that I use good judgment. I also love and adore my wife, and she is far smarter and more successful than me, and I have hitched my wagon to a shooting star. So I very rarely, if ever, ask Kelly if I can talk about her on the show. I just do, because she knows that if I use anything in a negative light, I'm at least going to be funny, I would like to think. But this is a different story. So I asked, so just know that as I tell this story, I have asked my wife for permission to tell this story, and permission has been granted. So now that is settled. Had a lovely trip with my entire family to the island of Kauai, which I learned it is Kauai is how you say it, not Kauai. And it is a trip celebrating my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. So my parents have been married or will have been married for 50 years. And
Big number.
And all my mom and dad, but mostly my mom, all my mom wanted was a family trip. So very rarely do we, there's 10 of us, right? Between brothers, sisters-in-law, nieces, there's 10 of us. So it's a tough number to move. So over the last year, we've been planning this trip out, and we're all going to go as one big happy family to the island of Kauai, get a house. We took family pictures and a lot of great, good quality family bonding time. But as anybody that goes with family knows that every once in a while, especially if you are a grown adult, you need some time on your own, right? Family trips are great, but every once in a while, just to, kind of reset the batteries, you got to peel off a little bit. Now, Kelly and I have not been to Hawaii together. I have been to Hawaii a long time ago, same as her. She took a trip with her family back when she was in middle school. I have not been there since my very early 20s, so we're like, well, let's find something for us to do. Just take, a little break from the whole family trip. Let's go find something for us to do. And we searched and searched and searched, and we found it. Now, I'm not going to name the name of this vessel, this boat that we were on, because they are fine people, and this is not their fault. But we're like, boom, Kauai Scenic Snorkeling Adventure. What a great idea. Let's go. Let's see. I also, case in point, I am a Jurassic Park nerd. It's maybe the one movie I kind of nerd out on. I'm not a dinosaur guy, but I just love Jurassic Park. And this was a chance to see on, I think it is the west end of Kauai, the Nepali coast. Now, the Nepali coast is the cliffs. When you see the helicopter come in to Jurassic Park, right? That's the Nepali coast. It's beautiful.
Yep, seen it via catamaran too. It's pretty special.
It is beautiful. So we're on this scene, and I love hey, this is when the inhabitants were, and here's a story of how they used to hide the bones of royalty, because if you stole I love all that stuff, and I'm eating it up. So you get up, morning cruise. So here's what, real quick itinerary. Get on the boat. They got breakfast and coffee on the boat. And we're with about around 50 people. So not crazy packed, but not by ourselves. It's about 50 people on this boat. So you get in the morning, you get some coffee, you get some breakfast. We take a trip up the coast. We see all the beautiful sights and the cliffs and the waterfalls and everything else, and learn all the history. Then boat turns around, a little snorkeling spot with fish. And then after you snorkel, if you are of age, which I am, burgers and beers on a boat. Brendan, what a better time. What, like, couldn't possibly ask for anything better. Learn some history. You see some beautiful things. You take some great pictures. Do a little snorkeling. And then burgers and beers on the boat. Take it back in. Beautiful day. Well, also, just note that in our previous trips, Kelly and I have taken 3 boat trips in the past. 2 in Greece on our honeymoon, and once just not that long ago when we were in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. We've taken 3 boat trips, and on none of said trips did my wife ever get seasick. Never once on any of those trips. So, pretty safe bet, right? We've been out on a boat in Greece twice, Mexico. So now we're out. And we're good. We're cruising. Wind's blowing in our hair. And we learn at the very beginning of this, the captain, Captain Lynn, who was great, was like, hey, if you don't feel good, back of the boat is the best place to be. Front of the boat, that's the ups and downs. If you go into the cabin, worst place you could be, because it's an enclosed space. There's no fresh air. If you are starting to feel a little bit something, Brendan, back of the boat. That's where you go.
Yep, for sure.
That's what we learned. So we were up, not in the front, but kind of on the sides, because I'm like, I want to see where the Jurassic Park helicopter came in.
It's so realistic. It's one of the cool. I can still remember it vividly, and it was probably 15 years ago.
It's so awesome. And then all of a sudden, I take a look to my right, and I see my lovely wife, and I'm like, I know that face. I go, what's the matter? She's like, it's not, I don't know. It's just, I don't feel quite right. And I'm like, all right, we're standing up on the side of the boat. Let's go find a chair to sit on in the back. Just sit, get off our feet. So we go in the back, and you can still see, And all of a sudden she's like, I'm not doing good. I am not doing good. Now, here's where it gets kind of nuts. We're sitting in the back, which is where they told everybody who was getting, if you just start to feel something, go to the back. Brendan, everybody starts coming to the back.
Oh, no.
It was not exactly a crazy, up and down. At one point, I know this because I counted, because I'm trying to be supportive, but also Kelly is in the place of just don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. Do not talk to me. You can't fix this. I'm like, all right. About a third of the boat was back there. About a third. Double digits. Kids, parents. So the boat crew was like, all right, here's the thing. We're going to get to the snorkel spot. Best thing you can do, hop in the ocean. You think it's not going to, and I'm like, all right, they're pros. They know what they're doing. Best thing you can do, jump in the ocean. It'll reset your system, get your bearings about you, get back in, feel a little bit better, and all of a sudden, get some lunch. You'll be right as rain.
Totally.
So we do that. We stop. We're going. We snorkel for about 20, 25 minutes, see some fish. We're looking for some turtles. No turtles, but. So I'm like, all right, perfect. We're reset. And I'm like, feeling better? She's like, yeah, I'm feeling better. Get back in. Sit down at the back of the boat the boat is anchored, but still it's still going up and down. And all of a sudden, like, I go and get some food, and I'm like, she takes a couple bites of lunch, and she's like, it's back. I can't do it. It's back. And you're not the only one. There are grown men punched in the mouth with the seasickness. So not only because my wife is incredibly thoughtful, not only is she dealing with now seasickness, but now in her head she's like, I've ruined it. This is our thing. I've ruined it. And I'm like, it's fine. So I'm talking and I'm like, what can I do? And she's like, you can't do anything. Please, like, go enjoy the beers. Because she's worried that she has ruined said trip. Brendan, we get to this point where Kelly is now sick. She has they called them an aloha bag, but it is a barf bag. She has got holding it because getting to the edges might get a little bit tough. And I am sitting there, and she told me to, hey, go enjoy this because it's bothering me that you're not enjoying it. So I've had about 3 beers. Now I'm getting side-eyed by this lady who's like, your wife is sitting here sick, and you keep going back and grabbing beers. Now, I don't know if she really meant that, but that's what I felt. But in my head, I'm like, she told me to have it. So just imagine this visual of Kelly is sitting there, towel over, head down, trying not to throw up. And here is doofus goofball husband keeps running back to the bar and grabbing beers. But she told me, I can't help it. There's nothing I can do. Don't talk. Just leave me alone. Let me breathe through it. Go enjoy the time. About 4 beers in, here comes lunch. So I'm like, all right. I got it. Do the husband back of the, hey, so not surprising. Felt better after.
Yeah.
I take said barf bag and I dispose of it. I'm like, I've got it. Don't worry about it. I've got it. I go into like super like husband mode. Like, I've got it. And then finally, like, old lady who was side-eyeing saw that, okay, he's not a complete jerk. But I was getting some side-eye because your wife is trying not to throw, and then ultimately did throw up. But Brendan, I've never seen it. A third of the boat got taken out. Third of the people puking off the back.
I've learned that, and we can continue this maybe a little bit into make or miss or something, but I've learned recently, Justin, that it depends on the boat. There are people who are not seasick, and if the boat is just, sometimes the way boats are designed, they roll with the waves a bit more and this and that.
We've been on 3 boats before,
Yeah.
3 boats, sunset cruises, all that stuff. Never once.
So it could have been the combination of waves, swell, maybe the boat wasn't as...
But yeah,
but I've been there. Yeah.
And I kept going to the bar, kept getting beers.
Nice, man. Way to be.
All right, we got Make or Miss coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, coming up in 1 hour from now, Tyson Alger is going to join the program. Get his thoughts on. It's one thing. It's one thing again to have fans and people on the internet and media members start talking about the Oregon NIL advantage that they have. It's another thing for an acting head coach. Now Kirby Smart said he was joking, but the funniest
Air
jokes,
quotes joking.
yeah, the funniest jokes are always rooted in truth. You know what I mean? Like if something
Check out a roast.
is completely false and it's not funny. The reason that one was kind of funny was it's kind of true.
But
But the perception's out there. The perception's out there that Oregon has got basically an unlimited budget for NIL, and that and I've said that's probably true. But the reason why I think Oregon is scoring these recruits is yes, money, can't deny it, right? Cannot deny it. But
makes the world go around, baby.
But B is organization. Oregon, to their credit, in terms of recruiting, has been in lockstep with one another. With Dan Lanning and Phil Knight and Division Street and everything else, they've been in lockstep with one another. I don't know if every other university can say that. Georgia probably can. I get a sense that that Kirby Smart is the final say and that the buck stops with him. I don't know if is it Mike Elko who's at Texas A&M? I don't know if Mike Elko, the buck stops with him at Texas A&M. I have a hunch a lot of those Aggie boosters might be over. Does the buck stop with Kalen DeBoer in Alabama? Or do the boosters run the show? Now, you might be saying, well, Justin, does the buck stop with Dan Lanning or does it stop with Phil Knight? Well, luckily for Oregon, those two seem to be in lockstep with one another. Both appreciating and respecting the other. That's the whole key here with this NIL thing. Phil Knight, I'm assuming, because you look at this recruiting numbers and the success that Oregon's having on the recruiting trail, Phil Knight understands the talents and respects the ability of Dan Lanning. And, of course, Dan Lanning has the ultimate respect for Phil Knight and what he built and the fact that he's the patient. The problem is when you get boosters who think they know better than the coach, which there are places all across college football where that is happening. That being said, Tyson Alger joins the show in an hour from now. We've also got some stuff we saw on the internet, but let's dive into Make or Miss.
All right, firing up Make or Miss here on a Thursday. Justin, starting here. Alex Sarr saw firsthand why Donovan Clingan won 2 championships as a defensive anchor.
Hell yeah, let's overreact.
Yes,
let's
sir.
overreact to some summer league. Let's do it. Let's get fired up. Yeah, boy.
Offensively, he's a little raw, but Justin, the defense with Clingan, all you got to do is just watch the highlights to see his blocks. I mean, they have been impressive. That kid can move for 7'3".
He can move. He can get out and defend the perimeter a little bit. Not a perimeter defender. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. But you know what I mean? Like one of the big question marks in every big man, because you're going to have a 7-foot or a 7-foot plus guy. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Shaq came into the league, and everybody had to find a guy who can play alongside of Shaq.
The Shaq stopper, right?
There was none, but that's what everybody was in search of. Much like Ponce de Leon, who was searching for the fountain of youth. History lesson, kids. It's how Florida was founded. It's Brennan's favorite state. But much like how Ponce de Leon, or I was just in Hawaii, Captain Cook was looking for the Northwest Passage, right? Didn't always find it, but they were looking for it. People were looking for anybody and anything of size to be able to stop Shaq, right? Yao Ming came into the league as a guy who was brought in to try to play with Shaq.
Who's the worst name you can think of that was?
It's easy. It's Michael Olowokandi.
He was decent though, wasn't he? Or was he not very good?
I don't think so. He was drafted by the Clippers.
Fair.
But I think he was a number 1 overall pick.
Cool name though.
Michael Olowokandi was the guy who was brought. He was the kind of the quote unquote that's the Shaq stopper, and But it was like Shaq was such a dominant force that every team had to have somebody. Because if you didn't have anybody, I believe moving forward, you better have somebody that can play with Victor Wembanyama. You better have somebody. He's a 7'4" alien out there that can shoot three. Like, you're not going to stop him. There is no Wemby stopper out there. It doesn't exist. But you better have somebody that can at least get in the way.
So you think as time goes on, let's play the simulation game here. Let's just go 5 years down the line when LeBron out of the league, AD's getting like the true, Anthony Edwards is kind of the star. Luke is pushing 30. When it could become quote unquote Wemby's time, and who knows, maybe that comes next year and we're all shocked. But I still think they need to learn and grow a little bit. So you think very much like Shaq, you need to have someone to go toe-to-toe with Wembanyama in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yes.
Just to have a shot.
I believe. Okay, hear me out.
I don't disagree. It's a
hear me out.
Medium warm take.
Part of like the Shaq thing, right? Shaq was at one point the most dominant player, but he wasn't always the best player in the league. He came in the 90s. Jordan was the best player in the league. There was a time like Tim Duncan was the best player in the league. But you can find guys, not going to shut them down, but like Michael Jordan was 6'6" guard. Everybody's got a player that can defend or can at least somewhat match up with a 6'6" guard. Nobody had an answer for Shaq in terms of size, strength. And so that's when everybody's like, well, we got to find some big-bodied aircraft carrier guy to put in the middle, or else Shaq's going to score 50 on us every night.
Yeah, he played with time of the Lakers, he's pushing about 330. So just think about that for a second, folks. I'm pretty sure I think
he was 7'1".
Yes.
7'1", 330, could move like...
And for what it's worth, Donovan Clingan is 7'3", 280. So Shaq, in his prime, had about 40 pounds on Clingan. Yeah. And maybe the numbers are a little give or take, but Shaq, that's insane.
But there were times where Kobe was a little bit better than Shaq. There were times when LeBron was better than Shaq. But like those guys, you look at them physically and you go, all right, there is no, was it Ruben Patterson said he was the Kobe stopper?
Oh, there's a name I didn't think I'd hear this morning.
Wasn't that it? Wasn't he the Kobe stopper?
I think you're right.
But there was a handful of guys who were like, oh, yeah, I'm the Kobe stopper, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, yeah, Kobe Bryant is, for all physical appearances, a normal run-of-the-mill NBA player.
In 2001, he nicknamed himself the Kobe stopper, claiming, as it says, claiming he could play strong defense against Kobe Bryant.
See, I knew I had it. But it wasn't that Kobe Bryant or Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, they weren't physical freaks. They were just incredible basketball players. Shaq was a freak, physically. He's a physically freak. I think the same thing with Wembanyama. Wemby is going to be, in 3-4 years, he might be the best player in the NBA. He might never get there, who knows? But you better have somebody that can somewhat defend him, or else he's going to score 55 on you if you don't have anybody that can stop him. Now, I'm not saying that Clingan is the Wemby stopper, because that would be insane in 2024. But what I am saying is you better have a guy that can protect the rim, but also can take 2 or 3 steps out and at least contest a 3-point shot. Clingan feels like he can do that. He's not a perimeter defender. Don't get me wrong. People are like, Justin, are you saying Clingan's No. What I'm saying is he is a rim protector that if need be, much in the sense of Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert's not a perimeter defender. But Rudy Gobert, if need be, he can protect the rim, but can get to. It takes him 2 big old French steps to get out to the 3-point line.
And Clingan's kind of the same way.
That's what I'm saying, is you are going to have a guy like that. So,
long answer, yes.
All that being said, but it's a good sign. Like, this is a good sign. But we talked about it before the show started. Throw the stats out for Summer League, right?
The blocks are kind of cool. I like to see, but not much.
But use your eyeballs, right? Use your eyeballs. Watch. You can tell a lot. Stats have been good in our world, but they've not always been the answer. Use your eyeballs. And Clingan looks pretty good. It's going to take a couple of years, which is fine, but he looks pretty good. Use your eyeballs. Also, I kind of look at like summer league, like spring training baseball, right? A lot of times teams are just working on stuff. Do you know what I mean? They don't care about wins and losses in summer league. Remember the Blazers when the Blazers won summer league and we joked about hanging the bit. They don't care about. They care about getting certain guys playing with certain guys. What talents do they have? Let's see what we got. So the whole Alex Sarr going over, which is, Brendan, I spent a lot of time saying, this draft might not be that bad. Maybe it was. Maybe Alex Sarr went 0 for 15, I think.
And I saw some really hot takes, Justin, too. Again, I haven't watched every bit of Summer League, but again, I just like to see how the draft picks perform because usually it's the rookies you really care about in Summer League. They fill out the roster with a bunch of guys who respectfully are looking for, work, lack of better terms. But yeah, I mean, you look at, from what I've heard, just initial overreactions. Donovan Clingan went way too low for how much he is ready to impact the game. And number 2, Justin.
Let's hope, yeah.
There's a lot of people who are really, really high on Reed Shepherd and what he's doing for the Rockets, man. He has been cooking. And I've seen some people go, maybe Reed Shepherd should have had consideration for number 1 pick. And he's drawing comparisons to Devin Booker. And I thought that's kind of a lofty, but impressive nonetheless.
And you know what? The optimism is great. And let's love optimism. It's much better than if you went and looked at the draft pick and was like, I don't know if this guy can play. That being said, much like we love college football, we cover college football, doesn't this feel a little bit like spring game-ish?
Yes.
Like every once in a while you'll see a guy in the spring game go like, whoa, look at that guy. It's like, yeah, it's a spring game. I don't think he's going to play. So, and it happens every year, and I've been guilty of it as well. Like, look at that guy playing in summer league. And then all of a sudden gets into a real game with actual adult grown and men NBA players and just isn't quite there. But better than watching in summer league going like, this is a complete disaster.
I mean,
which I don't want to say that about Alex Sarr because I don't, but like, can't be feeling very good about that. Number 2 overall, can't get a bucket. Maybe he's had a bad day. Happens.
Now, I'll say this too, Justin. We can actually kind of extend this into a new make or miss, but in that same breath, Justin, have you seen Bronny's lack of success in the summer league so far?
Is anybody surprised?
Bad.
Is anybody surprised? Again, what did we think was going to happen here? Like, I am not a Bronny hater. It sounds like I am. I am not. I am simply a guy that has watched a smidge of college basketball to know that guy scored 4 points a game on a bad team in college. He's undersized. He was a 3-star recruit out of high school, by the way. Did nothing to dispel that. Actually had, could have been very serious, but had health concerns. Missed an entire year of basketball. Other than the fact that he is of the same DNA strand as LeBron James, what about Bronny has given anyone any hope that he was going to be a professional basketball player at the NBA level? 3-star recruit out of high school, barely got in the starting lineup at USC. And as a matter of fact, I think it's fair to say, if it wasn't Bronny James, I don't think he's starting for USC. I think he's coming off the bench. But barely started for USC, scored 4 points a game.
What did they?
He's not good enough.
So let's play a fun game here, Justin. What was he? I'm just looking for a terminology here, one that we like. He was coming in. People said best case scenario, he could be a what?
Best case scenario
a 3-and-D guy. And
I don't even think that, but yeah.
In summer league, Justin, I think that's pretty hard. He's yet to hit a 3-pointer in summer league.
He didn't hit threes in college.
Over.
He didn't hit threes in college.
It's not good, man. It's really not good.
And I know we get wrapped up in points and the whole thing. Well, and that's everybody's go-to. Oh, he can play defense. Isn't he undersized? Is he kind of undersized for?
He can't play the point because he's not a ball handler, so he has to be a shooting guard.
And he's undersized as a perimeter defender.
And a shooting guard who can't shoot, right? But nevertheless, we'll see. But one of the funniest tweets I saw yesterday, or X post, I should say, was Bronny James is 3 years away from being 3 years away. And I'm like, yeah. I mean,
he should be
in college
playing college basketball at USC for the next 2 years, getting better, working on his game. But his dad has a pipe dream of wanting to be like Ken Griffey Jr., who he liked as a child, and nothing will be deterred. I was last week. I think it was last week. I was running some errands before I headed out on my trip, and Chad and Dwight were playing some old audio, and it was like, I think it was when Bronny was going into his sophomore year of high school, and it was LeBron and I believe it's his wife. They were engaged for a long, long time, and then ultimately got married. But like, Bronny's mom was like, I just want him to be happy. I want him to be happy. I want it.
Savannah, that's right.
Savannah. And then they went, LeBron, he's like, I want him to play in the NBA. I'm not going to lie. It was going into his sophomore year of high school. This was the plan.
And Chad
This is the plan, and LeBron has got so much leverage in the league that he can manipulate the Los Angeles Lakers that have 17 championships, but can manipulate them to bring his son on the team that's not good enough.
And Chad brought up a great point. We talked about it yesterday. Just that, like, this is entirely LeBron's fault. Of where it's like, and you've said it too. But just like, because this is LeBron's dream, Bronny, did Bronny have much say in this process?
This is how I knew this stuff was going to happen. Do you remember those clips that were going viral on Bronny's AAU team? When out of nowhere, LeBron would jump in the layup line and start throwing down dunks. Do you remember those clips?
Oh, yeah.
What dad does that?
Yeah.
Do you go, again, I know that it's LeBron James, but could you imagine if you went to a high school baseball game at the beginning and dad goes, let me get some hacks in here real quick because I want to show you kids how to hit. You'd be like, that guy is a clown, making it all about himself. LeBron has been doing this for... Who gets in the layup line at your kid's game?
And I just think
to put on a show,
and you remember,
knowing that there's camera phones everywhere.
Yeah, and you know it's just funny too, Justin, on this point. Like, LeBron was also the same guy who, in the middle of December this last year, when the Lakers were struggling, goes, "Yeah, Bronny could be in the lineup right now. He could." Remember that? When he's like, "Yeah, we can put him in right now." Really?
When LeBron tweeted out Bronny's better than half the guys in this league.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So, again, nothing about this is surprising to me. The only thing that is going to be surprising is if now you're JJ Redick. Bronny's not good enough.
Not now, anyway.
You get so many spots on that roster. Now, I realize the end of the bench of an NBA team is not the most valuable
Blazers
thing.
have had some dudes in there who maybe shouldn't have been in the last couple of years, so yes.
But you're JJ Redick. You want every bit of that roster to try to win games, especially knowing that LeBron and AD doesn't have the best track record of, what do they call it, playing. So are you going to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, he's G League? But he's not, because Rich Paul came in and said there's not going to be a two-way player. They said that. So you're going to give up a spot at the end of the bench for a guy that's not capable. Good luck, JJ.
Yeah, I think they will. And as crazy as that sounds, we'll just see what it is. And he might not. I wouldn't be surprised. He got the 3 or 4 years. That's probably how much longer LeBron's going to be in the league. I don't know if Bronny gets a second contract. Hot take. But let's. We don't need to discuss this, Justin, but we'll close with this one. Brandon Aiyuk will force his way to the Commanders. What say you on initial gut reaction?
I don't think so. I think the 49ers are going to make him play.
I think
the 49ers are like, nope, we're too good. We got a good thing going. No. Because the Commanders have nothing.
Just no?
No. The answer is no. I request a trade. Awesome. No. Simple as that.
The NBA, you can't do that.
Can't do that. And they did, because they did it with Debo a couple years ago. Now, Debo's way better. Not way better, but Debo is a better player. But
pretty better. Yeah.
49ers are like, no, you play for us. All right, coming up next, wrap up hour number 2, stuff we saw on the internet, 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up hour number 2. Stuff we saw on the internet. This is an interesting story, but it brings up, I think, another question. I don't know if you saw Brendan, the national anthem at the home run derby.
Oh yeah, Chad and I broke it down in detail. Yeah, good times.
Let's get this out real quick. First off, Ingrid Andress is her name. She's got a couple of songs actually that I do like. She's a country singer.
Enough.
Got a couple of songs I do like. Sounds like she has a bit of a drinking problem and said, I was drunk. I have checked myself into rehab and I hope to get better. So let's all hope could get better. And what a tough way to kind of hit your rock bottom is on national TV.
Can we confirm she was drunk, or is that
She said. That's what she said.
But isn't it kind of a convenient excuse in a way too, or no?
I don't know if Okay, let me ask you. You butcher the anthem as a singer. Would you could just come out and say, "Hey, I had a bad night," or my in-ear monitor wasn't working. I couldn't hear myself. She came out and said, "I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to BS you. I was drunk. I'm going to rehab." Like, I don't know if that's I don't know if you would make that. I think it's sadly probably the rock bottom of maybe some demons she had been fighting for a long, long time. And we all hope she gets better. That being said, that was one of the worst. It was a really bad one. And it's unfortunate that, that's going to be one of your worst moments and that it's going to be remembered for a long, long time. Not for the home run derby, but because home run derby was a bit... This is what happens when you do the home run derby and you don't have Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani in the home run derby. It's just kind of, So she said, not going to lie, I've been drinking too much. I showed up drunk, butchered the anthem, embarrassed myself. I'm going to rehab. I'm back and be better than ever. Let's all wish her the best. This is the part that I find interesting. Another country singer, a guy named Parker McCollum. You ever heard of Parker McCollum? He has a song called Burn It Down.
Name sounds familiar.
I've seen him in concert. Pretty good. He says, he put this out on Twitter as kind of a show of support. He said, the national anthem is a tough one. You nail it and you get a pat on the back. You, let's say, mess it up. You're absolute toast. I like to think I'm as patriotic as anyone's ever been. I bleed red, white, and blue, darn right. But I've passed on every opportunity to sing the anthem. Super high risk, very low reward. I kind of agree with him on this. Like, I love the national anthem. There's nothing better than you go to a big-time game and anthem just gets knocked out of the park. There's nothing better. I've also been in plenty of games where somebody tries to put their own little spin on the anthem, but it's, from what I understand, now I cannot carry a tune in a bucket.
It's just hard to match Whitney, man.
There's Whitney, there's a Marvin Gaye version.
Those got to be the gold standards, right?
Those are the two ones that are. I'll ride for Chris Stapleton 2 years ago.
That was
Super
great.
Bowl.
I'll give you that.
I'll ride with that one. And there's a handful of other great ones. But for every one of those, there's about 5 or 6, what do they call them? Clunkers. Real quick, though. I can't carry a tune. I cannot sing. I am not a singer. You don't want me to sing. So I don't know what that must be like. But everybody who is an actual, real singer, like I'm a talker. I'm a talk show host. You put me in a room with a podium and a microphone, I could fill 15 minutes. It might not be the best, but I could fill 15 minutes. So I think about that with singers. Like, if you have the ability to sing, you give them a microphone and a tune, they could probably bust it out. But every singer that has ever talked about it always says, the national anthem is tough. It's tough. If you were a singer, would you do the national anthem at a big time event? I think I'm kind of with Parker McCollum on this one. It's like, look, because maybe there's you become the next Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, Chris Stapleton. Take your pick.
Yeah, I'd rather be halftime entertainment. I would.
Yeah,
I
because
would.
that's your music,
Right.
your song, your, what do they call it? Comfort zone, as opposed to singing a song that you likely never, if ever, sing. Even if you practice. Okay, so you get it, you nail it. Then what happens? Tip off, first pitch, kickoff. We move on, we go about the game. Yeah, if I was a singer, I don't know if I'd ever want to do the anthem. And again, I love the anthem. I am one of those people. Some people will say, well, should we have to do the anthem before every game? I'm one of those people who go, yes, absolutely. Do we need a live version of the anthem before every game? No. We could go to the tape. You know? I love when the marching band, whether it's Oregon or whether it's anywhere, like hits the anthem and it's like, let's play some football. I love it. That being said, I don't know if I'd ever sing it. If I was an actual recording artist, it was like, I don't know if I'd ever sing it.
So a quick Google, I actually learned, I did not know this until now, Justin. Did you know that the Star Spangled Banner, we only sing one paragraph?
One verse, yes.
One paragraph of it.
There's Francis Scott Key, I believe there's 3 verses?
Four total. So 2 through 4, we just skip.
We just don't, yeah,
because
we're
I'm
out.
looking at these lyrics, I'm like, I don't hear anyone talking about the shore dimly lit through the mists of deep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, but, to that point.
Could you imagine now?
The whole thing? Oh, Nelly.
National anthem, done well, 2 minutes, boom, boom. It's perfect. Let's everybody get on the same page. Hey, get your beer, get back to your seat. We got a game to play. I love it. Sometimes they push it to like 2:30. Somebody gets a little like,
Yep.
If we start getting lazy. Could you imagine if we as a country just said, no, we all 4 verses.
I mean, I'm just saying.
It was like,
I'd like to see someone do it. I mean, it'd be cool. I mean, Francis Scott Key wrote the whole thing, man.
But it was a poem that
Right.
I don't know if the other verses, I don't know if they have been put to music. Now, I could be wrong. But I think just the first verse that became our anthem is the only part that was put to music. By the way, fun fact, the music that we put the Francis Scott Key poem to is a tavern drinking song.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Huh. No kidding.
If you think about it, it's an old tavern drinking song that they put.
But no, I would definitely. It's very cool just to read these. Again, I was 28 years old when I found out the Star Spangled Banner is not done in 2 minutes.
Do you know the Star Spangled Banner also not about the Revolutionary War? It's about the War of 1812.
Did not know that either.
Yeah.
Just the things you learn on a random Wednesday with Justin Byers, man.
About the War of 1812. Fort McHenry. That's the flag was still there. Fort McHenry. We don't talk about that because we kind of got our butts kicked in War of 1812. They really got us on that one. But
we're still here, thankfully.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting. But to your point, no, Chad and I talked about this a little bit. I told Chad if I was sounding like that, I would have tail tucked, been like, sorry, y'all, I don't have it. I'm not going to continue this. It just bailed mid-anthem.
Now, I have been in a place where I have maybe had one too many to drink and gotten a little overconfident. So I do feel also for Ingrid Andrews.
Yeah.
It's like,
why would she get drunk before the anthem?
That's why she's in rehab.
Yeah,
right now.
I'm like,
that's because there's it's more. It's probably a whole lot more than you and I are capable or educated enough to talk about. We wish her the best. We wish her the best. We have got hour 3 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Wednesday morning. Justin Myers with you. The Blazers get a Summer League victory over the Washington Wizards, 82-80 yesterday in Las Vegas. Donovan Clingan, the first-round pick for the Blazers, 8 points, 13 boards, 5 blocks. Count them, 5, as he takes down Alex Sarr of the Washington Wizards. The American League wins the All-Star Game, 5-3 victory over the National League in Texas yesterday. And after not receiving a new contract with the 49ers, wide receiver BRENDEN Aiyuk has now officially requested a trade. Tyson Alger joins the show from the I-5 corridor coming up in 20 minutes, an RCM mailbag as well. And while even though I do not play video games, while College Football 25 brings me some hope, I'll tell you what I'm talking about right now on 620 Rip City Radio. And welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Wednesday morning. As I just mentioned in the update, going to talk to Tyson Alger in 20 minutes. We've got an RCM mailbag. I may have mentioned it once or twice on this show. I am not a gamer. I am not a video game guy. I have not played a video game on a console since the original PlayStation. It's the last time I actually played a video game. Just never quite been my thing. Which again, it's not. I'm not better than anybody. I'm not worse than anybody. It's just never quite been my thing. Brendan, he's a gamer. He loves his video games. He sits down. And for the last, I don't know, 16, 17, maybe 18 months since the rumors of College Football 25 coming back. Now, again, we didn't know it was going to be College Football 25. We thought it was going to be something last summer. They didn't get it done in time, and I think it might have been some of the changing landscapes in college football. But it has been an 18-month project, it feels like, in the making, and now it is finally here. And everybody on the internet and Brendan and everybody, they've all been, it's so happy, so glad. Hours upon hours playing this video game. And I was just thinking, like, why? What could it be? What about this video game is so great? Now, I have some thoughts, and again, I am saying this as someone who doesn't play video games. So, Brendan, challenge flag fully intact to throw the challenge flag at me and say, maybe not. But here's my theory as to why. I don't think it's just a McRib situation. McRib, what are you talking about? McDonald's figured out that if you take away the McRib, you build anticipation, and then you bring it back, and people buy it, even though it's not a very good sandwich. Do you know what I mean? Like, some places like Disney did this for years and years and years. Before Disney Plus was a thing, you had to buy Disney movies. And you had to hope that they were available, not just in the vault. Brendan, you were probably too young to understand what the Disney Vault was, but they used to do this all the time.
I remember what it was. They release, movies that, like the Disney movies from like the 70s and 80s remake. Like you can
only buy it for the next 2 months, and then it goes back in the vault.
Like Snow White, and Cinderella.
It's unavailable. Even The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, it goes back in the vault. We don't know what it. And Disney did that because that's smart business, right? Because you better get it now or else we don't know when. And when it went in the vault and then when it became available, you're like, I remember that. It's back now. I don't think that's the only appeal to College Football 25. I do think there is some of that. I do think there is some of like, man, I have missed this for the last 11 years. It has been taken away from me. But here's the other thing why I think it has so much popularity. And it goes back to the secret sauce of college football that I talk about all the time. It's more than just a football game, right? Football game. You had Madden for all those years. Madden has existed for all those years. Why? But you know what Madden doesn't have? Doesn't have fight songs. Madden doesn't have traditions. Madden doesn't have uniform combinations. Madden doesn't have rivalries. And I have voiced my concern for college football for the last 2-3 years, maybe even more before I was even on this show. But I've voiced my concern that the more and more college football looks like the NFL, I think the more and more we are heading towards its demise. I worry about it. It freaks me out. Now, maybe I'm just a worrywart. Maybe it's because I love it so much that I am scared that it may potentially one day go away. And I've always said, I think the reason that we love college football is because it is like pro football, but it's also the things that it's not like. And the more you make Saturday football look like Sunday football, the more you confuse the two, and then why even have the college football? But here's the hope I get from College Football 25. The reason that it is better, even with, you could put NIL in the game, you could put transfer portal stuff in the game.
It is.
The reason why this game is special is because of what still makes college football special. Yes, these players are getting paid, and yes, these players are hopping and skipping and jumping from team to team to team, and yes, there's a 12-team playoff, and Oregon's in the Big Ten. We're going to be there next week. That's still Mighty Oregon when they fire up that fight song. That's still a mascot duck on the back of a motorcycle running out of a tunnel. That's still a chainsaw on third down. Did they put that stupid chainsaw in the game? Is that in there?
Oh yeah.
Oh, man.
Because the
Yeah, I hate that chainsaw.
it was funny. A little
But
behind.
you know what I mean? Like that's. Correct me if I'm wrong, but like you have been able to play Madden,
Oh yeah.
but Madden doesn't have. Madden doesn't have OSU.
juice.
Our hats are off to you. You know what I mean?
No, and
Madden
it's-
doesn't have the. It's
Like
so.
when I'm-
So to me, that's why I think college football is going to be okay. I don't like the direction it's going. In fact, there's no captain at the wheel. You know what I mean? But in the end, these stadiums are still on college campuses for the most part. Fight songs are still being played. Rivalries shall still exist, whether they are new or old. And I think that's what makes that football game special. Better than Madden, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's. But I also think it's also like you said, the recency bias of it coming out and the fact that we haven't had it in so long.
That's
but
definitely part of it.
But like, yeah, I mean, there was a moment when I was, because again, like I said, yesterday was my day. I really got into the nitty gritty of it and, grinded out, 6-7 games. And, I kind of got goosebumps when I'm sitting there and, I told Justin it was my best game of the year was playing Oregon. They're really, really good. And when you get that first down and then you hear the da da da, you just can't help but like sing along in your house kind of a thing. And like I saw also like Virginia Tech perfectly has Enter Sandman when they walk in. Like just the small, minute details of this game.
But those are the details as why college football is so great. Those are the things, and I think...
Can I tell you what's the hardest?
It's brought me a little bit of hope that, even though all these guys are getting paid by NIL, and even though all these guys are probably going to threaten to transfer if they don't get everything that they want, and, the swings, and at the end of the day, that's still your school's logo on the side of that helmet. It's still the fight song that you sang as a kid and as a student, and I think that's... For college football, always going to be the secret sauce. Yes, you were saying.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. And all great points. But, there's always some unique twist to the game where it's like, okay, they really kind of went the other way. Justin, kicking is ridiculously hard in this game.
It should be because college kickers stink.
There you go. So they made kicking and punting just like, it's hard, man. Like there were many times I had to say, all right, no extra point here. We're just going to go for 2 because it would have, that's the one thing I still haven't figured out yet. But again, the pageantry, like I said, Oregon, they got the motorcycle perfectly nailed down with duck run or driving onto the field. Like it's just, it's special. It's hard to quantify.
What other video game could actually get away with a highlight video? Getting people like a hype video, you can't
maybe Call of Duty in its heyday.
I guess
in mid 2000s, like heyday. Where
but you're watching those hype videos. It's almost like you're getting hyped for the actual season,
right?
But it's not. It's just for a video game,
right?
Which,
and I haven't seen a video game take this much of the populace, and this is a really random comparison, but just where it's like, hey, do you play this? And it's like, of course I do. I have a console. I play that game. It's like as popular as like, a Grand Theft Auto, for instance, or something like that, where it's just like, have you played that? Oh yeah, I played it. Like, if you have a console and you don't have it, it's kind of a psychopath trait.
I still worry about the state of college football. I still worry about the sport in general, the fact that I don't see any actual genuine leadership, and it seems like it's every person out for themselves. And I don't think conference realignment is done. I don't think we have anywhere close to a settled state of college football. But just like the last couple of years, right? It was weird last year going into the season knowing that the Pac-12 was done. Remember a year ago? A year ago at this time, well, it's a year and some change, because a year ago at this time, the Pac-12 was down to 10, and then oddly enough, Deion Sanders did not go to Pac-12 Media Day, and I was like, that's interesting, and then like a week later, they left the conference. Starting a domino effect, which we have discussed ad nauseum on this particular program. But then a funny thing happened come September. They kicked the ball off. We played the games. It felt normal. It was anything but it felt normal. It felt like, okay, there's a Pac-12 logo on the field. That's going to be gone. As soon as these games are wrapped up, that's going to be painted over and moving on. And yeah, Oregon's going to have a Big Ten logo on their uniform. And is there a logo, a conference logo on Reeser anymore?
Yes, so it's still there. Washington,
they're just keeping the Pac-12 logo?
Yep, Washington State and Oregon State, like I told you earlier, when you can make your schedule, like it's almost like they're a two-team conference, and it's still called the Pac-12. So I'll let you know if I can rebuild it. We'll see.
No, I'm talking about actual physical in real
the
life.
logo's on the field. It still says Pac-12.
Okay.
So
So when you go to an Oregon State game this upcoming season,
I would guess
the logo's going to be on the field at Reeser.
I think so.
I think you have to, right? Because the whole legal part of it.
But like to your point, Justin, I told you earlier, like it's not even if it did change, it's not surprising to me that the logo would still be on the field, considering it still has the old cruddy side of Reeser Stadium. So hopefully they get that fixed in a patch, because that's still if you're looking, you're like, oh, that doesn't fit.
By the way, did they do their uniform unveiling?
They did.
They did that. How we feel about that?
They're pretty sleek,
in 30
man.
seconds.
Shout out, Nike or whoever did it. Usually Tinker Hatfield's got a cool hand in all uniform stuff over there. But no, I like them. Oregon State, nice little refresh, new coach. They hadn't really done a refresh since after Gary and Jonathan, so I think that's typical for Oregon State. Refresh about every 6-7 years.
What if they're going to have a Pac-12 patch on there?
That is a good question. I do not know, but
we'll find out.
That is a great question.
All right, coming up next, our good friend Tyson Alger, friend of the program. Speaking of uniforms, he just talked about Oregon's uniforms. They have another big unveiling coming out on Friday. We'll talk to him about that and many, many more things next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, so the biggest name in the SEC just said Oregon's got an unlimited treasure chest. I said it in jest, but still, Kirby Smart of Georgia saying out loud again what a lot of people have been saying about Oregon on the recruiting trail these last couple of weeks. On top of that, there's a video game out, and we are 45 days away from college football kicking off 2025 as Oregon will open up the season against Idaho. We are going to be live from Big Ten Media Day coming up a week from tomorrow. Joining us now, though, on the big show to talk all things Oregon college football and who knows what else, friend of the program from the I-5 corridor. Well, let's welcome back Tyson Alger to the big show. Tyson, how we doing, bud?
I'm good. I didn't know you were going to Big Ten Media Day.
Sorry, you cut out there real quick. I missed what you said. Sorry.
Oh, I was just in shock that you were going to Big Ten Media Day. Like that will be a great show.
We certainly hope so. Whirlwind 24-hour trip to the beautiful city of Indianapolis. Now, I have not been, and I as a West Coast elite that I am, as a coastal elite. I do enjoy actually going to the Midwest a lot, but I've never been to Indianapolis. You ever been there?
Yeah, we had. That was you know how like everyone remembers where they were when like COVID hit and like the world stopped. Like
yeah.
we had the athletics like annual conference in Indy like the week before everything shut down. And so, like, my last week of, like, personal freedom for 2 years was being in a frigid Midwestern city where it was far to walk to everything, where all of us West Coasters were like, why don't we just do this in Vegas next? Indy's fine. Like, they go, like, it's a good convention city. They have good shrimp cocktail. I still don't quite understand, like, why that city specifically goes gaga for shrimp cocktail.
Yeah.
Because, like, as we understand, shrimp is a landlocked species, just as Indianapolis is. Yeah, you'll have a good time. I think I wouldn't be upset though if the Big Ten started to like explore its new West Coast roots though in the future.
Just like you talk about like at a house, like we really got to explore the space here, right? And like there's LA. I don't know about Media Day though at LA by the airport wasn't too beneficial last time a conference tried that, but yeah. It was a whirlwind trip. I'm going to be there for a good 24 hours, and I shall see the hotel and Lucas Oil Stadium. So, very excited about that.
I almost felt like we were being cheated on a little bit though, like seeing like Big 12 like roll through the streets of Vegas like this last week. Like that was the Pac-12's baby. Like that's the wounds are still fresh there.
Okay, and I don't know if it's like this for you, and probably not because when you left the great city of Palmer, Alaska, I don't believe you went back all that often because I mean that's a bit of a trek. But like when I left high school, and then like. And my dad was a teacher, so like I would go back as like a college sophomore, and to see like these kids like in my locker room or like in my hallway, it kind of felt like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh no, this was ours. Like, yeah, you left, you're gone. Big 12's like, this is ours now.
Yeah, I felt that way, like, going back to, like, my college journalism newsroom, like, for, like, homecoming day, like, oh, like, you guys got new computers, huh? Yeah, I wrote a lot of stories on that one. Oh, the N64, you boys like Mario Kart? You know, like, that sort of thing. And you just feel old real quick.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. Latest post up on the I-5 corridor. Oregon looks sharp. Of course, we're going to talk some uniforms here in a moment, but will the Ducks still play fast in the Big Ten? And it's an interesting question because, and I want to expand on that. Tyson, the old way of college football was, hey, Big Ten, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. SEC, hard-nosed, fast defense. West Coast, good quarterbacks, speed, offense. And there's always kind of been Big 12, offensive lines, and then there was a time where the Big 12, it was like, no defense, all offense, spread everything out, and everybody kind of had like some regional. Now that college football is not really regional anymore, the names might say, Southeast and Atlantic, but they are anything but. Do you think we're going to still see conferences have kind of identities like they have had in the past in college football?
Man, I feel like it's getting too streamlined for that, or at least I feel like that the upper echelon teams in these larger conferences are comprised so primarily of like super talented players that like you don't quite. I mean, like I don't know. I just feel like you're going to see a lot of very similar offenses. It's not quite as I still don't like going back and calling like the Chip Kelly blur like a gimmicky thing, but it was definitely like a wrinkle that he found in the game that like you were able to exploit and work. And one, I just feel like that like we've been playing college football for so long now, it's harder to find like those like big glaring things that you can separate yourself with. But also, again, like I said, like I think that the top 25 teams in the country are just like so broadly different than everybody else that I think they're going to be largely not like playing exactly the same, but I think like especially like analytics too have really kind of shown like what's the most efficient ways to like run your team.
Well, it's also been a thing that I get frustrated with because I am, as we've mentioned multiple times on this show, I am an Oregon homer, but I do get a little bit frustrated because the narrative was always out there like Oregon, they play fast, but when you go up against a big-time opponent in the trenches, can't compete, and they're going to have to figure some things out going into the Big Ten. It's like, yeah, that opinion was based off of like 2 games, right? They did go to Ohio State. You were there a couple years ago, and put it on Ohio State. And this notion of like Oregon and Washington and USC and UCLA, boy, they better start eating their Wheaties in the morning because they're going to be going up against these Big Ten behemoth offensive lines. Like I think if you look back at the history, like the Pac-12's competed just fine with the Big Ten week in and week out. I don't know if that's the case, but it's just always kind of been the narrative around not just Oregon, but West Coast football.
Yeah, it just kind of seems like it's kind of like the recycled narrative because it's like, okay, they're not big and physical enough to compete. Then they go have a game where they are big and physical enough to compete, and then we largely forget about it. But like if you look, like I mean, Oregon once had that Stanford problem where Stanford was too big for the Ducks and too physical for the Ducks, and then the Ducks overcame that. And then, they had multiple games against Michigan State over the years. They had the Ohio State game. Like, basically since the crystal ball era really started in 2018, like Oregon has really kind of more patterned itself towards like what you would think kind of those Big Ten SEC schools look like, with like really, really, really big dudes in the trenches and a lot of reliance on the tight ends. But like it's I don't know. I just think that's like an easy thing to kind of classify Oregon as, because like that's how it used to be, and that's also kind of why I wanted to look at this. The post that I put up today on the corridor is just that. I think a lot of people still assume Oregon is still like that lightning quick, like snap the ball fast, like gimmicky offense, and really they're not. Like Oregon's offense, while they were incredibly effective last year, was as slow as they've been like since pre-Chip Kelly days. Like they were snapping the ball like every 29 seconds. That's 9 seconds slower than it was a decade ago.
Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. How much of that, and this might sound silly, but I don't think it's too silly, how much of that is a uniform thing? Right, because Oregon created an identity of like they are not about tradition, they're about moving forward, and it's flashy uniforms, flashy marketing, flashy offense. Right, everything kind of goes in. Now when you look at the statistics, like you mentioned, the offense still puts up plenty of points, and Bo Nix was as efficient as anybody in terms of a quarterback, but they are far from flashy. But they always kind of seem to have that label because they've got the Nike and the, as the kids call it, the drip. I think the kids still call it that. But I just wonder, just like we kind of think about, UCLA's soft. It's like, no, they wear light blue uniforms. It's like you can't get past them. Sometimes, like, the uniforms are magic, as we talk about on the show.
Yeah, I think it was just like a perfect timing of just perfect marketing for the program, because you had a team that looked fast with like the jerseys it was wearing with like the highlighters and the yellows and all sorts of different colors. You had a coach who liked to play up-tempo offense, who was also recruiting at the time the fastest players who would ever come and play at Oregon. I mean, like, we can talk about the snap count, but definitely some of the allure of that thing was watching like DeAnthony Thomas get the ball a whole bunch of times and like go to work. Like everything looked fast. And, over the decade, other teams started to play fast. Other teams started to incorporate uniforms. So that's where Oregon's kind of zagged a little bit, because, it's such a overwhelming advantage as it used to be. But it's definitely interesting seeing them still trying to kind of carve out their identity and kind of what kind of, because like I don't think Oregon ever wants to lose like the speed descriptor. Like I think that's part of Nike's identity. I think that still goes well with the uniforms, but it's definitely in different forms. Now it's just like you have 5-star dudes who could probably run in the Olympics versus just getting the ball off quickly.
Well, and I think we mentioned a couple weeks ago, because Oregon not only has been kind of teasing this and kind of going, hand in hand with college football 25 that producer Brendan has been playing a bunch over the last 2 days, but there's going to be, again, new sets of uniforms, and I know they hinted at it, I think yesterday or the day before, with Joey Harrington, that like, are we going to be maybe seeing some. It's sad, but again, it's how the calendar works, and it's just how life works, and I just need to get over it, Tyson. But the fact that what was supposed to be the most new, forward-thinking, progressive, innovative uniforms are now throwbacks.
Yeah,
well, it's tough.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Like it's a mixture of like the uniforms you liked when you were a kid are now being thrown back, and it's also like movies that you liked when you were a kid that you thought were like super modern are now being remade and recast, and like they're doing Gladiator 2, man. like speaking of things that came out around like the Joey O era, like gosh dang, like you're old. Like I'm getting there, but I can't imagine what it feels like to be in your chair this morning.
It's plus I was on a plane yesterday for like 6 hours, and you don't recover from a 6-hour plane ride anymore like you used to be. Also, my body thinks it is 5:30 a.m. right now. Tyson Alger from the
Aloha.
I-5. Yeah, aloha. Aloha meant goodbye, and it's a goodbye to me yesterday. Tyson Alger from the I-5 corridor joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. I want to talk about this. This was interesting. I teased it at the very beginning. Tyson, Oregon fans have been kind of a little sensitive, Sally, about the implication that Phil Knight is just writing checks left and right, and it's kind of been a thing going around on the internet, and some media members are throwing it out, and of course, Oregon fans have to, get all up in their feels about it. That no, it's not just the money; it's about Dan Lanning and his popularity. Well, then somebody who probably knows. Kirby Smart at SEC Media Day made, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see it, but YouTube can, a joke about Oregon football. Here's Kirby Smart. I want you to hear this at SEC Media Days yesterday, I believe. Nope. We get the spinning wheel of death.
This year, we took Nike, who I've had the great pleasure of meeting Phil Knight and his wonderful wife, Penny, and I wish I could get some of that NIL money that he's sharing with Dan Lanning, but that's another note.
You lost me there in the beginning. You said my NIL what?
The joke about Nike and Dan Lanning.
About Dan Lanning having the treasure chest to open up and get whatever he wants. Yeah.
So he qualified it, Tyson, as a joke, but now, like we've seen, gone from fans to media members to now the head coach at Georgia is throwing out there that just Oregon and NIL, and they have an unlimited treasure chest and get whatever it wants. I don't know if the numbers back that up, but I guess my question is that ultimately a good thing for Oregon, that the college football world just sees them as a place with unlimited funds?
Do you know who probably was pretty happy during a certain time frame? It was probably New York Yankees fans from like 95 through whenever George Steinbrenner died.
Yeah.
Because you remember, like every offseason, that dude would be like, all right, Alex Rodriguez, what's he make, $250 million? Yeah, we can make room for that. Or, it's like that's what the game has turned into, and like all these schools are complaining about it because maybe they were able to get away with it a lot better back when it was under the table, but like those are the rules now, and there might be some gamesmanship there from Kirby too. If you're publicly saying Oregon's got this unlimited amount of money, and then they get into discussions with somebody that Georgia's competing with, and Oregon doesn't have unlimited amount of money, what's that player think about Oregon in that context? But Yeah, I mean, like it's a whole lot better than what it was 2 years ago when Kirby was saying Oregon just simply didn't have good enough players to compete, and so it's pretty incredible like how quickly things have changed in 2 years. And it's not often that the Ducks here in the preseason are part of the SEC media days conversation, but that's where they're at. And so I Oregon fans, I guess, can feel insecure about it, but also like this is what everyone's kind of dreamed of since Phil got attached to Oregon, isn't it? Like, let's play ball. Let's go for it. So, like, I mean, be bashful about it if you want, but in today's modern college football, this is how you win, and the Ducks are doing the best job at it.
It is interesting because I'll say this as a lifelong Oregon fan, as a guy that has watched and covered Oregon football my entire life. This whole idea that Oregon may have the best roster in the country, I'm not comfortable with. I don't like this at all. I'd much rather like overlooked. Nope. East Coast bias. Nobody pays attention to the West Coast. I'm much more comfortable in the nobody believes in us spot as opposed to the Oregon might have the best roster in the country. Tyson, I'm very on top of that, leading Heisman Trophy odds candidate in July, Tyson, with Dylan Gabriel, who's not taken a snap of football at Oregon. I am uncomfortable with the spot that they are in.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, first of all, I think Oregon's very good. Like, I'm leaning more towards people being right about that than all this being smoke and mirrors. That being said, you do have 4 teams joining the Big Ten. Out of the 4 teams joining the Big Ten, Oregon is by far in the best position, so they're going to get publicized a lot in that regard. The Gabriel stuff's pretty amazing because, like, I wrote this last week. Every other candidate that Oregon's had in this position, there's always kind of been a gradual build up to it. Bo Nix had the 2 years. They did the whole billboard campaign. Marcus was already a program hero by the time that he had his Heisman season. Gabriel's expected to be as good as those guys are from the jump. And while he's been very good in his collegiate career, I'm just fascinated to see how that works. If he struggles, this is a season where, with all the preseason expectations, Oregon seems like it's a national title contender. And if Gabriel struggles, it's not like he has seasons of time in front of the Austin crowd to kind of earn their trust a bit. And you do have a very good backup.
I was going to say, it's not like there's a high-profile backup there just sitting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not like Jeff Locke sitting on the bench right there. No disrespect to Jeff Locke, but this is unlike a season that Oregon's ever had, because I feel like a lot of times it's still, even in 2014, it was still kind of that gimmicky offense that finally had a Heisman caliber player running it. It was it was still just a little bit different. And now it's just they're just expected to be good. They're expected to be one of the best. And that's a lot of pressure for a quarterback who's never played here before.
And for a coach that really hasn't won the big giant game quite yet. But it's going to be fascinating. Better be part of the discussion, like you mentioned, than not part of the discussion on the outside looking in. Oregon looks sharp, but will the Ducks still play fast in the Big Ten is the post that was up earlier this morning on the Corridor. If you are subscribed, well, you probably have already read it. If you haven't subscribed, what are you doing? Get on there. What else is coming down the Corridor, shall we say?
The Corridor is heading down to Eugene tomorrow for a one-on-one with Mr. Dan Lanning.
Okay.
And our full-on season preview coverage will be debuting the next week.
I very much look forward to that. Tyson, I very much look forward to our conversations each and every Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your week. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
There we go. Tyson Alger, one-on-one with Dan Lanning. All right. There we go.
Big deal.
Big-time stuff on the Corridor. All right. Coming up, we have got an RCM mailbag. Wrapping up the big show next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, let's wrap up the big show. Get you ready to get after it on a Wednesday afternoon or Wednesday morning into afternoon. We do that the same way with the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Nothing is off limits, and I repeat, will not duck the tough questions. Brendan, let's fire up the mailbag.
All right, firing up the big mailbag today. Yeah, Justin, I think it's going to be it's not going to be quite as hot today, is it, compared to yesterday? Or
I don't believe so. I think
Yesterday
we're in
was
the
like
80s today, and it was the upper 90s yesterday.
Yeah, it was almost like a humid heat late in the day. It was kind of an odd weather, but definitely stuck around. Good news that I don't think happened to me before you left. Got my air conditioner fixed.
There you go.
Since
Good news.
Because you were here when it broke, right?
I was.
Yes, okay. So, as it turned out, Justin, just a part. So we did not need a whole brand new unit.
Even better.
So that was a, about a $9,000 difference, give or take. So, definitely jumping for joy over in our household to not do that. And I ended up asking Chad this question. I'm curious what yours were too, because you lived without air conditioning in your current house for a hot minute.
For 2 years.
So, question for you now. If you were in my position at the time, because when we were going through and trying to figure it out, we found that it was a little more expensive to get somebody to come quicker compared to somebody who would have came like this week sometime.
Yes.
So we paid Walcott, again, shout out Walcott, dude, for coming out and doing it. My question is, would you have paid a little bit more, and a little bit more being like $50, $75
Yeah.
to have someone come out ASAP? Or would
ASAP.
you have been the cheap and been like,
Nope,
nah, we'll wait, we'll ride it out?
All right. Because the way you kind of threw it out there, and I see what you're doing, and it's correct to think, well, you've had it, you lived 2 years without air conditioning. What's a couple of days, right? Once you go over the line of being an AC person, you don't go back. Like once you receive like that comfort, it's like, well, then I can't. It's like growing. Like some people who like grew up, like maybe they grew up in a trailer, and it's like, and then they got out of it. It's like I don't go back to the trailer. I don't go back to that way. And so that's that. Yeah. And on the hottest day of the year, or one of the hottest days of the year,
There was 104.
AC goes out, and I can get a guy there with 100, maybe 150 extra bucks. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
Top of the list. Whatever gets it done, I'll figure it out afterwards.
Yeah,
Because I don't go backwards.
Yeah, and I still, to this day, like, Justin, if you can imagine, so we have a 2-story house. The bedrooms are upstairs, downstairs, living room. My room is at the corner of a hallway, and we had to keep us alive during that stretch. I put my window unit in my window from college. And basically, Justin, it was my door did not close for that entire time. There were 4 fans in my room blowing the cold air into the hallway and into every other room. That's an adventure when you try to use one window unit to cool down an entire 1,800 square foot house.
Now, when I had no air conditioning in our house, though, we had a little like robot air conditioning thing.
Yeah.
That I'd had from an apartment. So we created like a cold room. So because I knew like that one thing wasn't going to be able to air condition the whole house. So we're like, see, I did the opposite. Now, again, it's just 2 of us and the dog. So we're just like, nope, guest room, put the AC in, close the door. We're watching TV in here. And created a cold room. That's how hot, as opposed to try to air condition the whole house.
So, nevertheless, now I have to play by. Have you ever heard of the rule of 20, Justin? So the nice man did say, hey, this will last you for a bit, but eventually you need to start thinking about, a new unit. And the new rule is we can only go 20 degrees less than it is outside. So say it's 93, we got to be 73. 95, got to be 75. So
that's an actual rule? Or is that a recommendation?
Like his, quote, recommendation to not have it burst and break again.
Got it.
So really,
so what you're saying is because I am I do not
you probably
play,
have a newer unit.
I do not play by the rule of 20.
You probably have a newer unit you can run a little bit harder.
Are you saying that I am going fast and loose here, and that I am going to be reckless over the next couple of weeks?
He was honest. He's like, yo, your unit's 20 years old. Like it is, the house was built.
Mine's a year and a half.
Yeah, but like the house was built in 2004, and it's like, it was, thing. So he's like, look, Put a Band-Aid on it. You're probably going to need one eventually, but yeah, just don't go below 20. So, like yesterday when it was 90,
I need it at 70 is that's the
I have
number.
to have it at 70
That's
when I
the
sleep.
number.
Yeah, I'm the same way when I sleep. So, I don't mind if the house is a little warmer during the day, but then as soon as that sun starts to go down, shout out to Kenny Chesney and Uncle Cracker. Yeah, we turn that AC down.
All right, what's next?
Yeah, let's see if we can get to a couple more here on the mailbag, Justin. If there is, yeah, this would be interesting. What scares you the most about AI right now?
Okay. I don't know anything about AI other than
Don't be too monstrosity, like realistic scared. Don't say like they're gonna take over the world.
No.
and kill us all.
Here's what scares me. So AI is essentially designed to, and if I have this wrong, I'm sorry, nerds, but is designed to kind of think like a human, but like at the crazy fast speed, right? It's like AI has read all the books, so you don't have to read the books, and it essentially kind of helps just organize. But at some point, the AI is going to start producing other AI stuff. Right? Right now, it's just producing other human stuff. The AI is going to produce more AI stuff, and then that's what freaks me out. You know what I mean? Because like right now, it's like we're going to use AI. It would be like as if a doctor figured this out, but this way's way faster. But then like the AI starts then creating its own AI because humans created it. So it's kind of... But if it evolves to where one AI system creates another one and we don't have control over it, that freaks me out.
Yeah,
freaks me out.
Again, it's.
Do you see what I'm saying? Though?
Oh, totally.
I think if we needed to unplug, somebody's got to unplug, right? If we needed to roll it back, I think we could.
Yeah, just have it connected to the wall, right? So a plug-in. There you go.
But once the AI creates its own AI and we don't know how to unplug it, I'm worried about that.
And
I worry about that.
And you pretty much just described the plot line of the second Avengers movie.
Okay, well, that was also Terminator 2, I think.
Yeah, it's true, pretty much. But no, I mean, it's like, it's definitely interesting because like
it's like Jurassic World, right? We had the dinosaurs, and like we knew how to like take care of them, and there's the lysine contingency from the original Jurassic Park. But then once they created a new dinosaur, it's like, well, we don't even know how this thing moves.
I mean, again,
why do we create a megasaur?
As time goes on, Justin, some parts of that movie age extremely well, some so-so. One of the things that still ages well are all Malcolm's quotes because, you know, whether it be college football or anything else, it's like they were so obsessed of whether or not they could. They never stopped to ask themselves, like, whether or not they should. That's like
also life finds a way, which is why AI finds a way.
Stamp that on everything.
Artificial intelligence, like, if we're creating a fake life,
finds a way,
it's going to find a way. Freaks me out. All right, that's going to do it for the big show. Well, you know what doesn't freak me out? Getting out and having a great day and getting back on the big show tomorrow morning. Thanks to Tyson Alger. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.